Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. This is Scott Reisch of Crime Talk. And today on the docket, first, we have the Patrick Frazee trial update. The key witness, Crystal Lee Kenny, is testifying. 2, let's talk about juror misconduct that reversed a murder conviction. 3, I know, Chris Watts just won't go away. And 4, we have 2 contestants for the Dumb Criminal of the Week prize. Let's talk about it. Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. This is Scott Reisch of Crime Talk. Thank you for tuning in. If you like the channel and you haven't done so already, please subscribe. Hit that like button if you like our video, and please leave us a comment. I want to know what you think about the Patrick Frazee case or anything that we talk about. Please leave a comment. We do read them. First on the docket, let's talk about the Patrick Frazee trial. For those who do not know, Patrick Frazee is accused of killing his fiancée, Kelsey Barrett, just about a year ago at Thanksgiving, and the trial has commenced. They have no body, but the prosecution's theory is that Miss Barrett was burned on Patrick Frazee's mother's property, and that's why they have not found the body. Even though the prosecutors have searched, and as far as we know, have not found any body remains or DNA, the police had searched trash disposal sites for over a month and came up with nothing in their search. And so it's going to be interesting. Now, the jury got seated on Friday of last week. Here we are Thursday today. The first couple of days, really, it was kind of laying the groundwork of who was Kelsey Barrett and what happened about the time frame that she disappeared. A couple of videos have been played showing Patrick Frazee kind of in the area. There's also been some home video that showed Mr. Frazee was at Kelsey Barrett's home just prior to her disappearance. But on cross-examination, what came out was that the black box that the district attorney alleges that the body of Miss Barrett was placed in is not seen on those video cameras. And so the key witness started yesterday, and that was Crystal Lee Kenny. She is the longtime girlfriend, on and off again type of relationship with Mr. Patrick Frazee, and she is their key witness. She had entered a plea of guilty to a Class 6 felony, which is the lowest class of felony in the state of Colorado, where she is looking at a possible sentence, which could include prison, of 12 months to 18 months in prison and up to 3 years if the court found aggravation. Per her agreement, she could be aggravated, so she could get 3 years. If Mr. Frazee's convicted, he could get life without parole, plus time on the solicitation counts. So Miss Crystal Lee Kenny took the stand starting yesterday. She started going through her relationship, that she had met Patrick Frazee years and years ago. They met at a rodeo here in Colorado. They kept in touch. She gets married. At one point, she becomes pregnant with his child. He urges her to abort the child. She aborts the child. At some point in their relationship, which is on again, off again, obviously, Crystal Lee Kenny was married up until recently, where she was divorced. At some point, she actually discovers through some friends of a friend that Kelsey Barrett is pregnant, and that obviously Patrick Frazee is the father. So kind of a little passive-aggressive thing, knowing that she knows but hasn't been told. She shows up at one point to Patrick Frazee's house with child's clothes. Well, they still have this relationship, and apparently during this time, Patrick Frazee is saying that Kelsey Lee Barrett is allegedly mistreating the child and that he's there for her protection. And then Miss Crystal Lee Kenny says that on 3 occasions, that she was going to kill Miss Barrett herself, and that she failed to do so every time because, for lack of a better term, she just chickened out. One of the situations was she was supposed to poison the coffee. She apparently gets the coffee. She somehow introduces herself to Miss Barrett, but she gives her the non-poison coffee. The other incidents, once again, she says she's going to do it, but she doesn't. Then she's supposedly back in Idaho, and apparently she gets this call from Patrick Frazee. And he says, boy, you have a mess to clean up. And somehow she apparently just knows what took place. So she gets in her car. She then travels to Colorado and begins cleaning up the apartment. So both at the end of yesterday and today, Miss Kenny describes how she arrived in Colorado, how she cleaned up the apartment of Miss Barrett, and she went through everything that she was describing and what she did. Body cam video was also played of her tour with FBI agents as well as police officers from Colorado on the Patrick Frazee's family ranch, where she's describing where the body was allegedly burned, what he used to start the fire, what he used to try to get the fire going more intensely, pointing out gas cans, things of that nature, and some of those items were in fact put into evidence today. Now, today got off to a kind of a slow start because Patrick Frazee didn't feel well, so they got a late start till about 10:45 today. And apparently, Crystal Lee Kenny also didn't feel very well today. Now, I wish the court would have allowed cameras in the courtroom. I've said this before. These are public courtrooms. They should be made public to everyone. Not everybody can go sit in a courtroom and spend 3 weeks watching a trial, but these are public forums. It lends credibility to the judicial system if everything is done where everybody can see it. The court system should have nothing to hide. If the decorum it gets out of whack, the judge can immediately impose restrictions like that. But in this particular case, the judge prohibited people from tweeting, blogging, and obviously no videos. And in fact, today he had the sheriff seize what somebody was putting on their notes, but apparently it was a sketch artist who worked for NBC, and they confiscated those sketches. And the judge said that the individual could have those back today. They should have that. Why should these be open? So people can see the demeanor of the witnesses on the stand. One of the instructions in the jury packet that they will get is you can believe some part or none of a witness's testimony. And you should consider their ability to recall, their ability to recollect what they perceived, their demeanor on the stand. People that are in the courtroom have said that Crystal Lee Kenny is not looking at the jury. She's looking at the prosecutor. She's looking at the Elmo machine where they're putting pictures up to project, or she's looking down. That's important, okay? Every witness should always be looking to the podium for the question and then turning and talking to the jury. Why? If people are talking to one another, there's trust that is built. If you're looking off to the side over here, not making eye contact with somebody, that goes to their credibility. And so the district attorney may have or should have talked to Miss Crystal Lee Kenny about that presentation. It goes directly to one's credibility. Now, the defense was just starting the cross-examination, and they were starting to hit on the fact of her plea bargain, the lowest class felony you can get in Colorado. The district attorney tried to do that. They always try to talk about what the plea deal was, and it's always up to the judge, and their agreement is to tell the truth, etc. But the reality of it is the district attorney could have charged her with accessory to murder, which would be a class 4, which would only be 2 to 6, could have charged her with conspiracy and put her up there with a much higher possible penalty. She could have been charged with the solicitations that she did. She could have been charged with attempted murder by taking that substantial step, okay? And I think what the defense is going to harp upon is that for whatever reason, Miss Kenny wanted to be Mr. Patrick Frazee's number one. She's getting divorced from her husband. She wants to be with this guy. She supposedly thinks about killing her on 3 occasions and then just happens to take a phone call and drives down here to Colorado To clean up a mess? Or did she drive down here to Colorado to kill Miss Barrett? That is the cross-examination attempt I believe they're going to take. I believe that would be the strategy that I would take if I was the defense attorney, because it's the obvious one. You have to say that Mr. Frazee did nothing wrong, and maybe at the most, he's the one that helped her dispose of the body after she killed him. And maybe he can take his accessory after the fact, or tampering with evidence. Try to turn the tables on that. Not saying that's right. I'm just saying legally you have an obligation to your client to argue the reasonable inferences from the evidence or the lack thereof. And I think it's certainly clear that that could in fact be the case. It's going to be interesting. And yes, that's my opinion on that, my analysis on that. But at the end of the day, the opinions that really only matter are those of 12 jurors. All right, so next on the docket, let's talk about juror misconduct. Juror misconduct is a real deal, all right? The judges admonish potential jurors all the time that they cannot Google any of the parties in the case. They can't Google any locations. They can't go to any locations. They can't do anything. When you are a juror, you cannot consider any outside evidence that was not presented at trial. Why? Because at trial, you have to deal with the rules of evidence. And what may be admissible in the court of public opinion is not admissible in a court of law. And so jurors can only decide what they are given, which is the law in the case. So cases have been turned over when jurors have brought in Bibles into a deliberation room. And that's, for example, even on death penalty cases, if the jurors wanted to pray about it, they can't do that. Well, there's a case in New York, particularly in the Syracuse area. A former doctor, Dr. Robert Neulander, was tried and convicted of killing his wife. And by the end of the jury, during the appellate process, it was discovered that a juror in that particular case had sent some 7,000 text messages with friends and family during this 3-week trial, discussing the case, the witnesses, doing everything that you are admonished not to do as a juror. Well, guess what? That case is coming back for a new trial. Why? Because those jurors were considering evidence and opinions of people that were not on the jury, and evidence that wasn't legally admissible to consider. And so it may not be the just thing to do, but it's the fair thing to do, because Mr. Neulander, the Court of Appeals, agreed unanimously in New York that he did not receive a fair trial. So if you're ever on jury duty, listen to the judge, follow the rules, don't talk to people you're not supposed to talk to, don't look at things you're not supposed to listen to, and make your decision based upon what's presented in court and the law that the court gives you. It's not anyone's time to be a rogue juror and do their own justice. Now, in this particular case, the district attorney is not going to prosecute the juror in any way, but the judge could certainly, I believe, bring her back and potentially hold her in contempt, which if I were a judge, that's possibly what I would do, because now at great expense, they have to try to retry this case, bring in all those witnesses. What if they could have scattered, not be available anymore? Evidence may have been lost, disposed of, chain of custody issues. Who knows? All the issues that they have jeopardized the state's case against Dr. Neulander. All right, next on the docket, I know it's a Watts update. It's a Chris Watts update. For those who don't want to watch it, fast forward to the dumb criminal of the week. For those that do, I know this guy just won't go away. But why? The media still gives him attention. All right. People magazine is running a story that Chris Watts is in his own personal hell and how hard it is, and the anniversary that came and gone, and now his sentencing date that's coming, anniversary that's coming up, has acknowledged that he's in his own living hell. Well, so what? Now, the next thing as it relates is that the Oxygen channel, Criminal Confessions, is going to be looking at the confession tapes of Chris Watts. So for those that get mad at me, that bring Chris Watts update, understand there are people out there that are fascinated by this story. It is a fascinating story on so many levels. You've got infidelity, there's murder, there's relationship issues, narcissism, you name it. It covers all the spectrum of everything that people deal with in everyday life. And the mere fact that a man could kill his wife and his children, I think, just shocks the conscience of most people, and that's why it won't go away. So for those of you that don't want to listen, I hope you tuned out. For those of you that do, hey, you can get your Chris Watts fix on the Oxygen channel December 3rd. And finally, 2 contestants for the Dumb Criminal of the Week. First, look at this video. Look at these knuckleheads. It's unsure whether they're trying to break in so they go burglarize the property or if they're just trying to vandalize the property. But look at this knucklehead. I don't have the names of these guys, but I just have the video. And look at that brick. Look at that. He whacks that guy so good, knocks him out cold. So, if you're going to go commit crime, try to have trust your partner in crime, I guess, to have your back if he happens to knock you in the head with a brick and knocks you out, that he didn't just leave you. So this guy's got that going for him. But don't take a guy with a good wind up that's going to knock you out either. Bunch of knuckleheads. Now, the next contestant for the Dumb Criminal of the Week is actually a police officer. And this police officer went to a Halloween party dressed as a clown. Looks like some sort of insane clown posse kind of get up here. Carino Salgado was arrested on misdemeanor charges after allegedly slapping a fellow officer at a Halloween party. Officer Salgado, in her non-police attire, was trying to get into a bar, and an on-duty police officer said that she was not able to come to the bar because she was apparently intoxicated. Ms. Salgado then tried to get into the bar, and the police officer tried to stop her. That's when officer/clown Salgado became aggressive and actually struck the other officer in the face with an open hand. Officer/clown Salgado was charged and arrested for resisting and obstruction and battery of an officer, as well as criminal trespass. She received a personal recognizance bond, and since this is in the city of Chicago, I'm sure she can raise the name of Jesse Smollett and say, wow, this really isn't that big of a deal. It's just police officers after all. We're all just having a good time. Can't we just let this go away? So we'll try to follow and see what happens to Officer Clown Salgado, if she receives a Jesse Smollett, or whether she will in fact be punished. All right. That's all we have for today. Thank you for tuning in. We could not do this channel without you. We appreciate it. We hope that we provide you with some interesting information and analysis that you would not otherwise receive. Thank you. Have a great day.